Hello friends, welcome back to this session. Today I will continue with the last discussion about emotions and moods. We have discussed about certain theories of emotions, then different frameworks of emotional intelligence, how emotions can be regulated, and what is the difference between emotions, moods and affect. In this session I am going to talk about the application of emotions and moods in OP. Right from the day one, when we are talking about emotions and moods, we are talking about positive and negative effect, positive and negative emotions. But how in workplaces these emotions are influencing the organizations and the employee. So, let us talk about the understanding of emotion and moods in organizational behavior in different areas. For instance, we can say that the emotions and moods have very significant application in the selection process, in decision making, creativity, motivation, leadership, negotiation, customer service, job attitudes and deviant work behaviors and safety. That is easily understandable that when a person is happy, he works better. When a person is not happy, he is sad or he is in low mood, definitely his work performance will be impacted. But in different aspects, how emotions can be understood. If we talk about the role of emotions and moods in the selection process, then definitely it has very important role to understand why and how. That whenever employees are being hired or whenever the organization is evolving or indulging in the selection process of employees in different areas, then different professions require different kind of skills and how people can interact with their co-workers or with the external world in the marketplace. So, based on this, it is evidenced and it has been found that hiring employees, especially for jobs which are high demanding in terms of social interaction, then definitely employees are required who have high levels of emotional intelligence, as they will be more skilled, competent to understand the other person well and then engage in decision making. For example, in a study in US, it was found that while Air Force was recruiting certain top ranking officers, it was found that these officers exhibited high levels of EI using these findings, the Air Force revamped their selection criteria. So, initially, since we already discussed that emotions and moods were not considered by organizations, but with a gradual process it was found that emotions are an inseparable aspect of an individual personality. So, even at workplaces organizations cannot ignore, and they started giving a thought consideration that how emotions and moods can be included in different kind of organizational process. So, here the main implication of emotion and moods was found to be in the selection process. Some other researchers have also indicated that IT professionals, that in the area of IT sector there is positive relationship between emotional intelligence and job performance, as it is understandable that employees who have high levels of emotional intelligence, definitely they will perform better at work, and people who have low level of intelligence, they will find difficulty in handling jobs and people at work. At the same time, emotional intelligence also accounted for higher percentage of difference in the performance of male and female IT employees. So, according to this discussion, when we are talking about selection process and performance based understanding, even employees, that is male and female, gender also plays a very important role when we talk about emotions and moods of workers. As it is mentioned on the screen that even males and female employees do vary in their emotional intelligence at work. The other application is decision making. Emotional intelligence plays very important role in decision making, because whenever employees who experience positive emotions and moods, they are considered and they are expected to make sound decisions which is actually having positive organizational outcomes. They also engage in better problem solving, they possess more problem solving skills and they have better interrelationships. Also, it was found that individuals in a negative mood may take higher risks than they do when in a positive mood. Definitely any anger can trigger a person to take any high risk decision, no matter what is the consequence. But yes, person in a positive mood will look upon the consequences and then will engage in any risky decision making process. So, emotions and moods definitely again play a very important role in decision making process. The other is creativity, which is completely based on leadership. So, one goal of leadership is to maximize employee productivity through creativity. Research suggests that people in good moods are not just more creative, but they also generate a higher number of ideas and options, because they are more open to new thinking and process that fosters openness to experiences, new experiences, and come up with novel ideas, thoughts and different kind of process. So, people experiencing positive emotions are more flexible and are open in thinking, which make them more creative. So, to be creative, one has to be open enough to take the idea of the other person and enhance his own thought process. So, this fosters creativity and thinking at both the ends. The supervisor should actively try to keep employees happy, because doing so created better mood. Definitely employees who are happy they experience positive emotions, which in turn leads people to be more creative, because there is more interaction, people come up with more ideas that fosters more creativity and innovation. So, as it is being said in OB area that a happy worker is a productive worker, and at the same time a happy worker is also a creative worker. Motivation. Studies have highlighted that the importance of moods and emotions on motivation to have a significant impact on performances. It has been found that in an experimental group, two groups were created, and in one experimental group, members were exposed to some funny videos which triggered positive emotions among those group of members, and whereas in the other group they were not exposed to any kind of video, and both the groups were instructed to perform a similar task. So, it was found that members who were exposed to those funny videos, they were more keen to perform their jobs in a new and better ways, and they were happy to perform it in comparison to those members of the group who were not exposed to any kind of funny video. So, that led to an understanding that whenever employees are exposed to any positive environment, they become more productive, they are more motivated to perform well, because more positive emotions are triggered among members because of positive work environment, and they are more able to solve the puzzles or any problem. Another study, it was found that moods of insurance agents in Taiwan, it was found that people who experienced good emotions and positive emotions, they were more keen to help their co-workers and felt better about themselves. So, it is about not only experiencing positive emotions and helping, even after helping they are feeling better. So, this leads to a positive spiral of emotions, that one positive emotion will lead to another positive action, and it has positive impact on both the parties, that is the person who is helping and the person who has been helped by that co-worker. So, this leads to positive spiraling of the emotions, which leads to positive emotions and motivations. So, even when giving people performance feedback, whether real or fake, influences their mood, which then influences their motivation. This is so obvious that even any positive feedback has been faked, then also it has positive impact on the other person, and the person is more motivated, because it triggers positive emotion on the other person and the person is motivated to perform better. So, in nutshell we can say that whenever employees experience positive emotions, a virtuous cycle is created which causes people to be more creative, leading to positive feedback and then observing their work. So, the feedback further reinforces the positive mood, which makes people perform even better, and so on. There is a virtuous cycle that has been created based on positive emotions and how people are motivated to work better. So, overall the findings suggest that managers may enhance employee motivation and performance by encouraging good moods or emotions. The other is implication of moods and emotions is leadership, that is putting people in a good mood makes good sense. So, leader who is inspirational, who inspires the co-workers with good changes, with positive changes in the organizations, making positive feedback to their followers or to the co-workers, is more optimistic while creating better positive work environments, more cooperative and enthusiastic to help the co-workers, definitely lead to positive social interactions and positive emotions, because this will foster more positive customer relationships. So, a study in Taiwanese military participants indicated that by sharing emotions Transformational leaders inspire positive informations in their followers that in turn lead to higher task performances. This is but obvious that any leader who is indulging in transformational leadership style where the leader is focusing more on relationship orientations, then this evokes positive emotions among the followers and they are more motivated to perform better. So, leaders are perceived to be more effective when they share emotions with their co-workers or the followers and create an positive emotional environment. But how this positive emotional environment is created? By the leader, while being more approachable, while taking care of the emotions of each and every employee about their preferences, about their likings and dislikings, and appreciating the skills they already possess or motivating them, encouraging them to enhance their skills further. For example, corporate executives do very much understand the emotional content of their employees and how they can foster their vision through the employees only by arousing positive emotions among them, and how those positive emotions of employees can be linked to their vision. So, leaders may help managers and employees alike to accept changes and feel connected to the new plan. It is not that the leader has just planned anything and he is just executing. The leader will take care of the followers or the co-workers that how any decision will impact them. While considering all the preferences, liking and dislikings of the followers, then only positive emotions are evoked and then that vision is been aligned with that of the co-workers. So, this is the impact of emotions and moods when we are talking about leadership. Negotiation. This is again a very important application in OB when we talk about emotions and moods. For example, any negotiator who is just simply feigning anger and has an advantage over an opponent. That means, when in the negotiation process, when the person is completely giving all and his final decision, where there is no scope of any change, then the opponent also understands that the person has its own emotional level, maybe in terms of anger or compliance, and that is the last resort where the opponent has to submit his last call. So, when we talk about negotiation, it is about the potential of using emotions to enhance anyone's negotiation skills. So, such studies have suggested that a negotiator who feigns anger has an advantage over an opponent. And how? So, when a negotiator shows anger, the opponent concludes that the negotiator has conceded all he or she can and so gives in. That means, the negotiator gives a final call based on his anger that this is what he is up to, and now the opponent has to decide whether he has to align with the negotiator or not. Now, if the negotiator is well informed about his decision, about his skills and about the opponent, then definitely the opponent has no scope to force the negotiator to change, and definitely the opponent has to submit, and definitely that negotiation becomes successful. So, therefore, angry negotiators who have less information and less power than the opponents have significantly worse outcomes. Now, it is other way round, that if the negotiator is not well informed, then the opponent can also dominate the negotiator. So, the point is that even when we are talking about anger as an emotion in the negotiation process, then anger has to be as a tool, emotional tool should be used accordingly when the person is well informed. Either the negotiator is well informed or the opponent is well informed, then the negotiation process is successful. Similarly, displaying a negative emotion can be effective, but feeling bad about your performance appears to impair future negotiations. Even for the opponents who fail to negotiate, even sometimes criticize themselves on their own, and they also brush their perceptions or brush the different kind of perceptions for the negotiator, that maybe that person is also negative and that is why the negotiation process was failing. So, the point is that when the negotiation experience leads to negative emotions, then people develop negative perceptions of their counterparts and are less willing to share information or be cooperative in future negotiations. So, it is about both the parties, that if the negotiation fails, then maybe both the parties can perceive each other to be a negative personality, and if that negotiation has to be reformed, then both the parties has to take initiative to be well informed, control their moods, emotions in terms of anger, and then renegotiate in the process. Therefore, the best negotiators are probably those who remain emotionally detached. The more we are emotionally detached, with the objective of negotiation, the more it becomes easy to negotiate. The more becomes emotional, that means the more emotions are dominating an individual, the more difficulty the person will face to negotiate or to come to any decision. So, one study of people who suffered damage to the emotional centers of the brain suggested that unemotional people may be the best negotiators because they are not likely to overcorrect when faced with negative outcomes. So, even if the negotiation has failed, then maybe the losing party would not feel bad or negative about even themselves, but if the negotiator is also emotionally attached, then they start feeling bad about themselves. That evokes negative emotions. So, the idea is that whenever two people are engaging in the process of negotiation, then they are supposed to be emotionally detached from that process, so that even the outcome is not successful, but still the emotional impact should be neutral on both the parties. So, this is the understanding that even in the negotiation process, both the parties, even if they are emotional, how they have to control the emotions in order to make the negotiation process successful, and if they are unsuccessful, then how they have to remain emotionally detached from those outcomes. Customer service, one simple experience that we can have every time. If the salesperson is very pleasant in accompanying at the shop, it is found that more we are indulging ourselves in shopping in the same shop continuously. We will come back to that shop again and again because that salesperson has a pleasant demeanor and he is attending with all the positive emotions. And we tend to expect some more from the salesperson as well, that he will show more products and we will indulge more into shopping. So, this is the impact of positive emotions on customers, and that helps to repeat the business, because we are repeating the customers based on the positive emotions, because salesman is very positive. So, we are repeating the business with the same customers again and again, and we are catching on emotions from others. So, this is one way to understand the roles of emotions and moods when it comes to customer service. This is something again we can understand in our day to day life, but imagine the other way around, when even the customers become over demanding and the employees also start feeling bad, which has negative impact on the organizations. And there is a point when even customers put lot of pressure on the employee or on the salesperson, and the employee or the organization find difficulty to convince the customer. Under such circumstances, even the organizations fail to convince the customers, as they are emotionally being hurt by the customers. So, when someone experiences positive emotions, those emotions become contagious and there is a repeat of business, and there is spiraling of positive emotions between the customer and the salesperson. Now, in another direction, when employee feels unfairly treated by the customer, even customers do misbehave with the salespersons, then it is harder for the employee to exhibit positive emotions. So, therefore, when we talk about high quality customer service, then the customers also make demands on employees, because it often puts them in a state of emotional dissonance, because they are being bottled up. Maybe some customers are putting lot of pressure on the salesperson, and the person cannot show his feelings, that what he is feeling right now, and it leads to emotional dissonance and can be damaging to the employee and the organizations. So, the point is that it is not only about taking care of the emotions of the customers, it is also about taking care of the emotions of the employee or the sales persons, that how customers are treating the employees and how they also experience some kind of emotional dissonance or emotional deregulation. So, the managers can interrupt negative contagion by fostering positive moods. Now, again it becomes the foremost duty of the organizations to again evoke positive emotions among managers, so that they can perform their duty well in the next chance. So, this is a understanding of emotions and moods in organization behavior when we talk about customer service. The idea is, the significance of this discussion is that when we talk about emotions, it is not only from organization based, it is also from the customer point of view. The other is work life satisfaction. Again, as it is being said, never take your work home with you. Why? Because work has spillover effect on the other domains of life. Work and non-work domain. This is the only two important aspects of an individual's life, and how people are managing or maintaining that balance. So, when we have negative emotions at work and we are bringing those emotions at home or maybe at any other non-work domain, definitely it has negative impact or negative spillover effect on the other domain and vice versa. So, this creates a vicious cycle of negative emotions. So, where that cycle has to be broken, that calls for work life satisfaction. So, this is about more of balance, that the relationship between moods and work life satisfaction is affected by work and home events. It is not only about work and its spillover effect on home, it is also vice versa, negative emotions at home and bringing the spillover effect at work. So, both the ways negative emotions are having negative impact on the other domain of an individual's life. So, the good news is that a positive mood at work can apparently have spillover to your off work hours, and a negative mood at work can be restored to a positive mood after a break. At workplaces, if we have a bad mood, we can just take a break, have a cup of coffee and then get back to work with a positive mood or emotions. But at the end of the day, when we are carrying our bad mood or emotions at work or non-work domains, definitely it is having a negative spiraling. So, the point is that when we are talking about work life balance, when we are talking about work life satisfaction based on emotions and moods, then it becomes very important to understand that we should not allow negative mood or negative emotions to interfere with the other domain of human life. So, for example, that the moods of your household may interfere with yours. As you might expect, one study found that if one member of a couple is in a negative mood during the work day, the negative mood spilled over to the spouse home. That is, even the couple who are working, if one couple is bringing bad emotions at work, it has its impact on the working spouse. So, the point is that no matter whether it is work or non-work domain or it is impact of working couples of one emotions on the other emotions, at both the ends emotion needs to be balanced, which also leads to work life satisfaction. So, again when we talk about emotions and moods, definitely it has spillover effect on the other domain of an individual's life. The other is deviant workplace behaviors, envy, jealousy. The other co-worker has more skill than us, the other co-worker has better credentials than me and we are unable to do that. These are natural emotions that evoke at workplaces, and when people are jealous, they envy at work, then they sometimes indulge themselves, engage themselves in counterproductive work behaviors or deviant workplace behaviors, while emoting negative moods or actions by tarnishing the image of the co-worker, by damaging the property of the organizations or sabotaging the property of the organization. So, it can be defined as anyone who has spent much time in an organization realizes people can believe in many ways that violate established norms and threaten the organization, its members or both. These actions are called counterproductive work behaviors or deviant workplace behaviors, and they can be traced to negative emotions and can take many forms. So, what are those forms? It is about negative competition, it is about envy, it is about jealousy. For instance, envy is an emotion that occurs when you resent someone having something you do not have, but strongly desire, such as better work assignment or larger office or higher salary. So, all these factors lead to envy or jealousy, and how people engage in counterproductive work behaviors by tarnishing the image of their co-worker. So, this is an act of workplace deviant behaviors, or people do take credit of someone else's performances and then feel elated. Angry people look for other people to blame for their bad mood and interpret other people's behavior as hostile, and they have trouble considering other points of view. This is another way to indulge in counterproductive work behaviors, by venting their anger on the other person and making them responsible. So, this is another form of counterproductive work behaviors. Now, the understanding is that when we are discussing about emotions and moods, then we are actually experiencing these type of episodes at workplace in our day to day life. These are the day to day work life hassles, and how people do tend to resolve such kind of hassles based on this understanding. So, we can say that when people engage behaviors based on negative emotions, they are into the thought process that can lead directly to verbal or physical aggression. Now, Aggressive counterproductive work behavior such as anger and abuse against others lead to production deviance or fall in the production obviously, and has predicted workplace withdrawal. When people who are being sabotaged or property has been sabotaged, then there is a sense of workplace withdrawal also, and at that point of time managers need to intervene and take care of the members who have suffered because of the negative emotions of the co-workers, and how those people should be trained or develop competency to manage their anger based on emotional intelligence. When aggression starts, it is likely that other people will become angry, and again aggression will increase or it will spiral again in another form. So, this leads to a serious escalation of negative behavior within organization. That means even when positive emotion is contagious, then negative emotion is also contagious. The point is that any authority, any manager has to intervene to cut down on those negative emotions and lead to spiraling positive emotions. Therefore, managers need to stay connected with their employees to gauge emotions and emotional intensity levels. And the last is safety and injury at work. Research relating negative affectivity to increased injuries at work suggests that employers might improve health and safety and reduce costs by ensuring that workers are not engaged in potentially dangerous activities when they are in a bad mood. For example, physically attacking any employee. So, bad moods can contribute to injury at work in several ways. For example, individuals in negative mood tend to be more anxious, which can make them less able to cope effectively with hazards. For instance, any natural accident that takes place in any manufacturing unit, members do experience these things, they evoke negative emotions and people become anxious, and how they tend to overcome such type of anxiety while creating safe working conditions for the employees. A person who is always fearful will be more pessimistic about the effectiveness of safety precautions, because the employee feels she will just get hurt away and she might panic or freeze up when confronted with a threatening situation. Also, negative emotions also make people more distractible, and distractions can obviously lead to careless behaviors. So, all these aspects need to be considered in order to maintain positive work environment leading to positive emotions among employees. Thus, selecting positive team members can contribute towards positive work environment, and more importantly, leaders who are charismatic transfer their positive emotions to their followers through a contagion effect. Now, here the contagion effect means that one positive emotion will lead to another positive emotion, and there is a spiraling effect among all the members. So, this makes sense to choose team members predisposed to positive moods. One member who is predisposed to negative emotions will definitely create a vicious cycle of negative emotions. So, one managers need to take care of the emotional aspect of every employee in order to create a positive work environment. So, this is the application of emotions and moods in organizational behavior in the area of selection process, decision making, creativity, motivation, leadership, negotiation, customer service, and deviant workplace behavior and safety. We are through with this module emotions and moods. We will start our next unit in the next session. Thank you so much.